Hello, everybody. My name is Bruce Montgomery, and this is my colleague, Tracy Priest.
Hello, everyone.
And we're with The Road to Retail. On our podcast, Tracy and I hope to offer insights and ideas for how emerging small and challenger CPG, consumer packaged goods, brands can establish and grow their business.
Bruce and I have been working in CPG commercial operations for over 30 years, working on brands of all sizes. By commercial operations, we mean all aspects involved in establishing and growing brands across channels and platforms. On our show, we bring on guests that are brand founders, leaders, investors, as well as all kinds of suppliers to these emerging brands that are subject matter experts to share their unique insights with the audience.
To keep up with the show, please follow the Road to Retail podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. Leave us a review and consider sharing the show with a friend or colleague that may benefit from the content. You can also check out our website at www.road2retail.com and follow The Road to Retail on LinkedIn. Let's get to today's episode. Looking to scale or launch your supplement or skincare brand? Eagle Labs Incorporated, based in Florida, offers full-service NSF-certified contract manufacturing of capsules, tablets, powders, liquids, gummies, and lotions. All of their manufacturing takes place in the USA. From R&D and formulation to packaging and fulfillment, Eagle Labs provides scalable, high-quality production that meets FDA and NSF standards. To learn more, contact Michael Law, Chief Commercial Officer at Eagle Labs at michael.law@eaglelabsinc.com, EAGLELABSINC, Michael Law, eaglelabs.com, or text him at 203-242-6417. Today's show is sponsored by Retail and Response. You've heard it a million times on this podcast. It's not about getting your product on the retail shelf. It's about moving product off the shelf and hitting the retailer's sales velocity hurdles fast. Otherwise, they're going to begin the discontinuation process. Trust me. A slow sales start can be fatal to your brand. You need consumers coming in seeking your brand. You know, the one they heard about on radio or saw on TV. If you think radio or TV advertising is too expensive, you need to speak with our friends at Retail and Response. With over 30 years helping drive hundreds of millions of dollars of sales for their clients, Retail and Response can get your brand on radio and TV for pennies on the dollar. Check them out at retailandresponse.com. That's retailandresponse.com.
Hi, it's Michael Law from Eagle Labs. We're live at the Founders Day event in New York City. It's just been an awesome day. Eagle Labs is very proud to be a sponsor of this event. We took an opportunity to share with all of the attendees here the importance of choosing a contract manufacturer that can help you scale, certainly with new retail channels like TikTok Shop and Amazon, as well as the traditional retailers like Target, Walmart, CVS, and Walgreens. It's really important that you choose a contract manufacturer that can scale with you as you grow your business over time. There were some fantastic retail panels here today, and look forward to the rest of the live reporting from this event.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Road to Retail. Today is going to be a very special episode that I hope you really enjoy. Tracy Priest, my friend, good morning, and how are you?
It's great to see you, Bruce. It's great to be in the Big Apple, New York City. We are live today from New York. So we've got a special guest and a special topic today to talk about.
That's right. And the only thing that, well, this was better, but the only thing close to the event we participated in yesterday is that the Knicks are winning. So I probably just jinxed them and they'll lose to the Wizards for 14 times in a row. But yesterday we had the pleasure of attending the second annual Founders Innovation Day presented by ECRM, RangeMe, and Retail Media IQ. And joining us today to kind of recap the action-packed event is Wayne Bennett, friend of the show and one of the key organizers of the event. Wayne, good morning, and thank you for getting up to join us today.
Bruce and Tracy, it is an honor to be back with you guys with the Road to Retail podcast. Good morning. So great to spend time with you.
Well, Ken is the road to, or Wayne is the Road to Retail's own Ken Jennings. He's a returning champion, and he's here to tell us what happened yesterday. So I'm going to give a little overview of what I felt the show was all about, and then Wayne can add his color because he and his team and the folks at Retail Media IQ really pulled together a kick-ass show. So the purpose of the day was to allow emerging brands to hear directly from some of the nation's leading retailers what they expect from these brands in order to have a chance to be successful. So, Wayne, before we dive into recapping the various themes, because there was so much content and so many speakers, I think to divide it out per speaker, we would be here until about March 14th. And that's just not going to cut it. So why don't you give a little overview from your perspective of what the day delivered for folks?
Yeah, Bruce, thank you for that. You know, we love the passion and the dedication of what founders bring to this marketplace in terms of innovation, excitement, determination. I love that. But yet, at the same token, they know what they know, which is a great product or an idea. But what they don't know is really how to grow and scale at retail. And the best way to provide that is to really hear it directly from the retailer. And because innovation is so important to the retailers, we were able to create our second annual Founders Day to provide founders with the opportunity to hear directly founders to hear directly from the retailer about what's really important for their growth, their go-to-market, and how they view emerging brands.
No, so that's great. So Wayne, before we dive into the themes, I just want to give you the chance to thank or acknowledge anyone up front because a lot of work goes into organizing those types of events, and I want to make sure we give you the chance to call them out.
Yeah, Bruce, I appreciate that. Well, first of all, I want to thank you guys for being there and being an advocate and supporting and having this conversation today. And really do appreciate the hard work you guys are doing with the podcast. But I do want to certainly thank my team, the ECRM and RangeMe team. If I can call out some people, if you
Please
don't mind,
do.
can I just call out some people?
Absolutely.
Certainly, I want to thank Sarah Davidson at ECRM. I want to thank Joe Tarnowski. I want to thank Teresa Norris. I want to thank Leslie Seeley for really their support and their determination to make this event really highly successful. I want to thank our partners at Retail Media IQ. I want to thank Jeff Friedman and Jeff Walt and the entire crew over there. And I want to thank our sponsors, and I want to thank the retailers for journeying into New York City at a very busy time of year. So I am very thankful for the support and the commitment that we have received for this event. So a lot of things to be thankful for.
Yep. Well, it's that time of year. Okay, folks. So with that, we're signing up. No, kidding. We're going to dive into our themes now. So Tracy Priest, take us away on our first key theme of the day.
Yeah. So one of the key themes of yesterday was being almost every person and speaker we heard from talked about being retail ready versus supply chain ready. And I think one of the speakers, I believe it was Whole Foods, said, you have to be, what does that mean to be retail ready? That means that you have more than an idea. That means that you've got to have your packaging ready. You've got to have your UPC, GTIN, and you would be ready to go to hit the retail shelf. So you've got to have more than an idea. And then supply chain ready. It's not an easy thing to ship to a retailer. You've got to know how to do it. You have to know all the logistics. And if you're a D2C brand and have never shipped to a retailer, you don't want to go to Walmart or a big retailer until you've really got all of those logistics and everything ready to go. So I think both are important. And we heard a lot, again, from most of the speakers about being supply chain ready and being retail ready.
Yep.
So Wayne, we always want to give you a chance to chime in on each theme. So why don't you go next?
Well, I think one of the things about being retail ready is, if you want to sell a particular retailer, make sure you know a little bit about that retailer,
Right.
right? Make sure you walk their stores, make sure you know the set that you want to compete in, what the adjacent sets are, right? And try to become a student of that retailer to really help you better understand what's important to them, what their go-to-market strategy is. So being retail ready, being supply chain ready is truly a big deal. And that again was one of the reasons for Founders Day.
Well, and we're going to get into supply chain in a little bit, but both of these are really important. So the other thing about supply chain ready, the notes I had was make sure you have backup suppliers, and you cannot have
Oh,
retail success to the consumer if you cannot execute by getting product to the retailers you're working with. So both of these are really important, and we're going to touch on them more later. But Wayne made a really interesting point that Tracy and I have heard from buyers that we've interviewed on the show. Don't go into a retailer and ask silly questions. Bruce, what's a silly question? How many stores do you have?
Mm.
What's your strategy? A lot of this stuff is findable with like 5 minutes of searching on the Google, as my mother would refer to it.
right,
Or if you're working with a broker or a sales agent and you've really zeroed in on one retailer, that person probably knows them cold, but don't go in and ask a question that indicates you've done zero homework. All right. So, pressing on, another theme to Tracy's point that we heard almost all of the retailers mention in one way, shape, or form was bring data. When you start talking about your product, which, as Wayne said, founders have tons and tons of passion for, and that's almost addicting to listen to people talk with so much juice about their product. But know what problem you're solving for the consumer. Make sure it's a match with the retailer you're approaching, their shoppers. Have reasonable expectations about what you're going to ask for. So going in, if to
Mhm.
Tracy's point, if you've never shipped to a big retailer, don't take all 2,000 stores. Take
Right.
like 300 and nail it. Make sure that you nail
right.
it.
That's
Um,
right.
and then the other thing I would say, because it's easier to expand from success than retreat because you've had all kinds of troubles. And then the last point I would make, all of them said, getting into a retailer is very exciting for the brand, and people are high-fiving or like singing in their car on the way back to the airport. But you have to have a solid demand plan for that first 18, 12, 18, 24 months, because if the
Right.
product doesn't sell through, the game is over.
Yeah.
Wayne, anything to add
Yeah.
there?
No, Bruce, I think you're right. It was mentioned a few times during the day that these emerging brands do need a demand plan or a promotion plan, right? How are you going to drive that product in that, through the consumer during that duration of time that you have to succeed? So I agree with you. A demand plan, the promotional plan, I think is definitely something you need to have as being part of retail ready.
Yeah, one other thing, Trace, before I kick to you.
Mhm.
CBS made two comments that I noted here. One, they said you really have to help us pay attention to the stocking levels, which again gets back to not going to all their stores at once. And then they talked about their, quote unquote, wildly excited about bringing in new products because emerging brands bring new shoppers and brings excitement. So that's kind of important too. Tracy, anything to add here that Wayne and I missed?
Yeah, two things I think that was mentioned during the day was, and we preach this on the episode a lot, is about velocity. So
Yes.
buyers want you
Yes.
to bring. So when you talk about know your consumer, know your numbers. I have this many followers. I'm on TikTok. I have this many followers, and my velocity at XYZ retailer is 10 units per store per week. That retail buyer then can extrapolate your proven velocity into what you would be projected to move at that retailer. I thought that was really a good point.
No, velocity is I mean that's the report card at the end of the day. It's one of the key inputs. So moving on, Teddy Townsend from Canaccord Genuity, the former Sawaya partners. Teddy is an investment banker, and she helps brands get sold. So it's always exciting to hear many emerging brands, their goal one day is to monetize, right? Some want to pass it on and keep it in the family, others don't. So Teddy had some really interesting points. One of the things she said right out of the gate was that, when you take money from investors, aside from friends and family, you are committing that you're going to sell at some point in the future, because people invest their money because one day they want it back and they actually would like more money back than they gave you. So understand that, and some of the other tips she gave to the audience was you should show or know that you understand the path to profitability if you're not there yet. Demonstrate that you understand all of the key industry metrics and category metrics of where your brand plays, and understand the different types of investors. And she hit on many, but the notes I jotted down, there was friends and family that kind of believe in you, love you. They're willing to put some skin in the game to help. And then she talked about, and Tracy and I have a couple of episodes with investors that go into more detail. But she said, she goes, look, growth investors get involved once a business is viable, right? You have traction, you have maybe a couple of years of building your business. You're more than a hope and a dream. When Teddy was on the show, she went through all the different areas of financing that an emerging brand can look at. So I would encourage people to consider that. Once you are bankable, that means a bank will loan you money and you don't have to be giving away ownership in your firm. And two other things, and I'll turn it to you guys. She said, if you're in a sale process, the strategics, the bigger companies or whoever that might want to buy you, they don't care about your timing. They care about their timing. And also very important, it's important all the time, I think, but all the bankers we've talked to say this, is when you're in a selling process, you have to keep hitting your numbers. It's good to crush them, but you have to hit them, because if you miss a number during your process, and folks, this process isn't wake up Tuesday, sell your business on Friday. She talked about the importance of engaging a banker probably 6 months in advance of even going out there, so that they can get to know your business. They can tell you where you're weak, where you're strong, and kind of coach you through the process. That's a lot. Sorry, guys. Wayne,
Yep.
anything to add there from
You know,
Teddy?
Bruce, I think I have nothing to add. You were very comprehensive. The only promising thing that, I mean, amongst many promising things she said, was that the market for activity is improving.
Yes.
Yep. Tracy, anything to add there on Teddy?
No, just one point I would make is that raising money for founders is a full-time job.
Yeah, we heard that multiple times.
Yeah, we sure did. So, and that kind of, yeah, so that's all I would add there. So let's
You're
keep
up next.
Yeah, keep rolling. So we had the opportunity to meet three different founders. It was a time led by Joe Taranowski, who's a friend of the show. We love Joe. And so Joe interviewed these three founders. It was just so insightful. So a couple of things that they brought up. One of the things that I loved is you have to be patient and persistent. And if that's a key, that is a key message to all the founders watching this episode and watching our podcast. Be patient and be persistent, and know that you get a lot of no's. So you really have to be thick-skinned. And our advice, I think, to founders based on this is, if you're not a good salesperson, you're an introvert or an extrovert, then hire somebody that can help you sell. But don't lose track of the fact that no one is going to, and we heard this also yesterday, is no one's going to tell your story better than you. So don't just relinquish the sales function to somebody and think you're going to step away. Being a founder, Wayne, you'll agree with this, you're always selling, right? You're always selling. You're selling yourself as a founder, you're selling your brand, or you're selling to, a financial entity. So I think that was really important. One of the other things, and Bruce mentioned this, being bankable. The founders talked about that, and that's basically where you're to a point where you have scalability that you can go and borrow money from. So, and then another key point, I think, is working with, as far as distribution, work with a regional distributor and start in your market. Start small and then go from there. And again, as we mentioned earlier, proven velocity. I'm in this
Yep.
retail, we're moving this amount of units per week per store. So, and then also making sure that the first retailer that you choose is a good fit, that their
Yep.
consumer and their demographic matches your brands. So those
Yep.
are other highlights. Wayne, do you have anything to add there?
You know, Tracy, I know you guys have talked about this on the show in the past, and when you think about scalability, you know your route to market, right? And understand that, launch first, on an online presence, whether it's your direct, your own website, and then obviously there's Amazon and Walmart Marketplace, and then there are regional retailers that are great, and then obviously you can move more into big box retailers. 'Cause quite honestly, many of the big box retailers, you know, don't really want to be there yet with you until you have a proven track record. So I think, the entry, the flow, the scalability is very important for these founders. The other thing I do want to comment is what I found that, obviously every founder is passionate, but what I really love about what founders do is they become the brand, they become the voice, they're very active on social media, they're creating their content. If you think about Fire Department Coffee with 20 million followers, I mean, amazing, right? If you notice what Obi Linton from the Kobe Foods has been doing, I mean, really great, authentic messaging on social media as he's the face of the brand. So there are a lot of opportunities to get noticed and be seen. The other thing I just want to mention too is that once you become established at a retailer, I thought it was really important to note, build relationships outside of just the merchant team, right?
Yes.
There's supply chain, there's many different facets that touch your brand, cross-functional assets that touch your brand within the retailer that you should reach out to.
Yeah.
Yep. So a couple of things. The last point Wayne just made, folks, you've heard Tracy and I speak of this, and some of our buyers who've been on say the same thing. Build those bridges beyond just the buyer, because the buyer, while they're interested in your product, they have a bunch of suppliers. They don't want to email with you. They don't want to be your friend sending each other knock knock jokes. You want to make friends with your rebuyer. There's promotion people. There's people that
Yeah,
only work on the digital storefront. I
right.
mean, you got to meet them
Inventory,
all.
inventory,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So one
inventory.
one
Yep,
other thing that I thought the fire department coffee guys spoke of, what was interesting, is they said, be careful outsourcing too early. They said start to outsource once you have better uses for your cash, because when you're small, you might not be that important to some of your outsourced partners. And if you start really cranking, they might say, Wayne, that's great, but I'll get you more product in 8 weeks. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. And the last thing fire department coffee said I thought was interesting is they primarily use their social media to drive awareness and engagement. They're not as worried about driving sales through their social media. So we're going to talk about that a little later, but that was interesting. Okay, moving on. The Target folks came up with our friend Dan Mack, and they talked
yep,
about their accelerator program.
yep,
A couple of things that came out there was build, launch, grow. So again, we've already mentioned this. Don't go to too many stores too early. Go to a manageable amount and then oversee them like crazy. Target also mentioned emerging brands is where the growth is because they're disruptors. And then, as Wayne just brought up, they said, look, work hard at building relationships with your buyer and beyond the buyer. One quote was, be in touch, but not too much. It's a fine line.
yeah,
Wayne, anything else to
yeah,
add to Les
yeah,
Spencer's talk
yeah.
with Dan?
Yeah, Bruce, I did want to make a comment, and I think this gets back to your scalability in the market, but I like what Les Spencer said. Aim small and miss small,
Yeah.
right? Like I think that is a good mindset as you're a founder looking to grow and scale in retail. And I
Yeah.
think the framework that you have outlined in terms of online, regional, big box, I mean, that's how I think you think about aim small, miss small.
Yeah.
I agree.
I really love that. And that's a great quote from that movie. A couple things I took away from the Target folks. One is that they feel like challenger brands are growth. And two other things they said was that they disrupt category forms and that founders are contagious storytellers. We heard a lot yesterday
Yep.
about the importance of your story and the importance of what problem are you solving for the consumer. And I thought those were some really great key takeaways.
Yep.
Great. Tracy,
Hey,
take us into co-manufacturing.
Absolutely. So Michael Long, one of our sponsors, shout out to Michael. Had a great talk just about working with a contract manufacturer. A couple key points Michael had is make sure that you've got a contract manufacturer that can scale with you. Michael
yep.
talked a lot about growing brands on TikTok and on social media. Make sure that you understand what the minimum order quantities are, or what they call MOQs. You don't want to work with a contract manufacturer where their MOQ is 50,000. You want to do it so it's small. Make sure you understand that manufacturers' commands lead times. So if you can't have to wait 14 to 16 weeks for your product, you're probably not with the right guy. And those are kind of some of the things. And also then make sure that when you're picking a co-man, that you actually visit the facility so you can see it running. And
Critical.
then also understand what certifications that they have. So those were some of the key points from Michael.
Yep.
Wayne, anything there?
I would just say the selection that you make of your co-man could possibly be one of the most strategic decisions you make.
Yeah.
There is no question about that.
Very, very important decision in terms of who you're selecting based on all the criteria questions you need to ask from what Mike shared, what Tracy just discussed. Very, very important.
So a couple of other points is when you're evaluating a co-manufacturer, Tracy's point's critical. Show up and walk the floor. Ask about their last inspections and if they had any citations and how they've been resolved. You want to make sure you're dealing with someone that, like, the FDA is not down there every 2 weeks putting tape across the door. And then see if your co-manufacturer has other skills. Like, we've sent people and we work with folks that work with Eagle Labs, but they'll have a regulatory department. They have talented people that can help with new product development. They have formulators. They have a fulfillment business. So if you're a DTC company getting going, they can even take that off of your plate. And another comment that Michael kind of closed with is, ideally, at least his firm, they're truly looking for partners and not just to be a transactional supplier and send me 500 cases of X. They want to be brought in and understand, your challenges and opportunities, and kind of color in between and see if they can help you out.
Yep.
Okay, so the next point theme was, we had another panel, and this one was Dollar General, Kroger, and Albertsons.
Yep.
And they spoke of the importance of localizing your assortment because, Phoenix is different than Boston. And that's important. We've heard that for years, and for a long time it was just idle chatter. There might be one shelf of local products, but everyone's gotten really committed to that. Is your brand scalable? Do you have proven velocities? Do you have impactful social media? So we had a guy on the show named Adam Brown who runs a company called Circle Media. And Adam made a really interesting point. He said, social media, in most cases, companies and brands, especially smaller ones, are counting on that to drive sales. He's like, who cares if you get a ton of likes or reposts if you don't sell anything? So again, fire department was very specific. They look at it to kind of have a little fun, build the image of the brand, drive awareness. But Luke was very clear that they're not necessarily looking to draw a thick black line from their social media to sales. What else? We heard that you should listen for the little yeses. You're going to get a bunch of no's, but somewhere in there, you're going to get a couple of nuggets of things they liked or things they'll try with you. So don't go in expecting that your 15-page deck is going to be thumbs up all the way through. Be open to feedback, and don't say you're open to feedback. Be open to feedback. One of the things Tracy and I have seen with brands we work with, Don't go in there and ask a retailer, what do you think of my packaging? If you've already run 50,000 cartons, are you really going to change because they don't like orange? Show them your packaging. Now, if you're really still up in the air, sure, get a little input. But if you've already made your decision, don't say, what do you think? Because that could be disastrous. And then Wayne already talked about
Yep.
Dollar General. Sorry, guys. Dollar General was very open. They said, look, we're fast followers. We're
Yep.
not going to blaze the trail
Yep.
anywhere. And he went through the steps that Wayne mentioned. Sell on your
Yep.
website first. Go to some local stores. Get in a small retail chain. Then go to a larger retailer when you have proven velocity, you have some data, you know you're priced right,
Yep.
etc. But that was a really good panel. Wayne, anything to
Yeah,
add on that
yeah.
one?
Bruce, I think you covered it all. But the one thing I would say as a servant to industry, and we're all servants to industry, and we want vitality in the marketplace, the fact that Kroger and Albertsons were sitting next to each other as two separate companies, I think is a very positive thing.
Yeah, there was
Absolutely.
there was there was a funny
I
little
hope I hope I don't get in trouble for saying that, but I want more retailers, not less.
there was a funny little repartee when they found themselves sitting next to each other. Wayne, we'll forward all litigation from their attorneys to you for
Thank you.
arranging those seats right next to each other.
Yes. Hey, they're
Tra-
two separate companies, right? So,
exactly.
Yeah.
you know what?
Tracy,
I love that.
Anything to add on
No,
this one?
I think you covered it very well, both
Yeah, I
you
think we should
and
we
Wayne.
should stay away from legal trouble. So moving on to Wakefern.
Yes, absolutely. So Wakefern was the next panel. They were great, and they really talked a lot about the importance of packaging, and
Yep.
make sure that the structure of your packaging really speaks to the consumer. Be clear and concise in your message of what your product does, and as we've heard before, what problem does your packaging solve? So, or your brand. So I think those were really important. They all also mentioned, like a lot of the panelists did, about staying connected to your buyer, and then also understand the route to market. And I thought this was a key point for each retailer, because
Yep.
each retailer is different. This is not a cookie cutter industry. It's
Right.
not one size fits all. A retailer has a route to market that's different, because they have different geographies, they have different consumers. So I thought those were a couple key points from the Wakefern. Anything to add there, Wayne?
Yeah, the only thing I would interestingly note here is, as it is the largest supermarket cooperative in the country,
Yes.
to understand the dynamics that those merchants have to deal with is, they also have to sell the owners. They have to sell
Yes.
upstream to the cooperative owners about your product, right? It's not just the brand is selling into the merchant team, but the merchants then have to sell the cooperative owners. So it
Yep.
is a very interesting structure and dynamic in terms of what's going on, but also because of that role that the merchants have. Just know that their time is very compressed in terms of how much they give to you, because they got to sell upstream too.
And I believe Hy-Vee is sort of structured similarly.
Well, Hy-Vee it has a little bit more autonomy the way they're structured in terms of their distribution. So similarly, yes.
Yeah. And the only other thing I'd add on the Wakefern discussion, and it's getting repetitive, but people, if everyone's saying the same things, I would say that's a key takeaway, that it's important to everyone.
Right.
So
Yeah.
having a demand plan, make sure that you can actually move product off the shelf once you get in there. And then they mentioned stress testing your supply chain, which is our next key theme. So
Mm.
Patrick Gibbons from the Emerson Group led a really interesting discussion on supply chain. So
Yep. Yep.
execution of supply chain is absolutely paramount, because if you want to get in the penalty box with a retailer early, be a disorganized mess on the
Yep.
process of going from PO to on the shelf. Think of your supply chain, and this, not only where you make your stuff, but how it gets shipped and how the condition it arrives in, and it's all the paperwork. Is your shipper correct? Are all of your case packs? All this unsexy stuff can
Yep.
kill you, right?
Yep.
So Communicate problems fast. And when you have a problem, don't hope they won't notice, because they will. They
Yes.
have tons and tons of data and lots of smart people worrying about this stuff all the time. So communicate bad news fast, and then tell them also why it happened, what you're doing to fix it, and when it'll be fixed, and then do it. Transparency, this all builds trust. Um, Tracy always wears the Grim Reaper outfit, but it's important from a supply chain standpoint that if something goes wrong and your new item doesn't stick, how are you going to get out of it? For those of you that watched our episode with the former merchant from HEB, Paul Gerner, Paul really articulated how critical that is, because people don't like retailer fees. And Paul gave a really good overview of why some of the fees are so important to the retailers, because now their DCs and stores are jammed up with a product no one wants. How do I get out of that? So, as much as we don't want to think about it, you have
Yep.
to. And then again,
Yep.
Patrick talked about, and his team up on the stage talked about building bridges with the rebuyer, the supply team, anyone, we hear all these stories all the time. Oh, I got a fine because my truck was late. Well, sometimes your truck is late. And other times, these are big organizations. Your trailer got dropped in the yard and it just didn't get scanned in. So there's
Yep.
all
Yep.
kinds of things. Wayne, anything else on supply chain? It's
Yeah.
such an important issue.
I think about it as an iceberg, right, Bruce? And like the tip of the iceberg could be the things that we always talk about in terms of sales and marketing. But when you really think about operational excellence, it's really everything that's below the sea, right? It's the base of that iceberg, I think, which is so important. And I just wanted to make a shout out that I think the dynamic of that panel with Pat Gibbons, who is the president of Emerson Logistics, sitting there with Leah Dunbar from Walgreens as a merchant, and then Paul Hennessy, who is the supply chain lead at Adventus, and then Mark Adams, who did transportation inventory at Dollar Tree. Just a really great dynamic of discussion around really understanding some of the key areas of operational excellence. And again, it's just something that's not sexy, but it's so important
Well,
for everyone to
your iceberg analogy, sorry, Wayne, is better than mine, because I was thinking, how do you explain this to people that don't worry about it enough? And I figured it's kind of like having a house or an apartment that's really, really nice, and you have a nice chandelier and you've got all
yeah.
these like
Uh,
fancy things, but the roof leaks, the furnace
yeah.
doesn't work, you got mice, and so what
Yeah.
do you really have? It's a
Well,
mess.
well, Bruce, really, at the end of the day, all the retailer wants is a sale, right?
Right.
And that sale that dictates customer experience, and that customer experience defines loyalty. And there's nothing worse than going into a brick and mortar retailer and looking for a toothbrush head replacement, and it's not in stock.
Yep.
Right.
I
Hey,
mean,
hey,
that is like like a moment of truth that does not win.
Hey, Tracy, before you add your comments, can you speak to how all this adds up to a scorecard with a retailer and what a scorecard is?
Yeah, so a scorecard, most retailers have, I'd say all retailers have one. And so it really is a report card on your ability to ship on time and ship in full. And most retailers have some kind of benchmark, 90% or above, and that is your score to say, I ship on time and I ship in full. So that's really what they're looking for. Those are the two metrics most
Yeah.
important.
Trace, anything else on supply
Yeah,
chain before
Yeah,
you
no, I
kick us
think you
into
covered it,
Walmart?
Wayne. You got another
yeah.
point.
I just want to end with this one. Just know that retail ready is also supply chain ready.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah. Good. So our final panel of the day was Walmart. So I was really, I got to tell you, blown away by the video showing their new store formats. They're really
Yeah, that was amazing.
one of the things I think that Jared and Leslie talked about is that Walmart is a always evolving retailer, and there's even more changes and things to come. So I was really impressed with that. So a couple of things they talked about is EDLC, and it leads to EDLP. So EDLC, for our newbies watching the show, is everyday low cost, and EDLP means everyday low price. So those two are connected, and that price is the foundation, to Walmart. That's kind of the table stakes, but they also want to provide value, style, quality, and price, all of that. So one of the things they said that I think was really cool, they said, we are an and retailer. So it is price and value and quality, and style. So I thought that was a really cool analogy that I had not heard before. So again, a couple other points is, make sure that you've got a great story, which we've heard, a lot. And, and that I was really surprised they talked about wanting to be, a lead retailer, and people, a lot of suppliers and new brands are kind of afraid of Walmart. And so they've got a platform, Wayne, I know about, that's educating new brands about working with Walmart. And then they have a lot of formats that are ways to get into Walmart. They have online, they have marketplace and things like that. So it's not always about just getting into stores, and getting into a couple hundred stores and then grow from there and prove yourself.
Yep. Yep.
Anything else on Walmart, Wayne? I have a couple of points, but I want to let you go first.
No, Bruce, I appreciate that. For brands out there who may be afraid to sell into Walmart as a lead retailer, I would say, don't be afraid.
Yeah.
What I would say is that I believe, given their focus on best practice, that they are a retailer that will make you better in your retail journey. It is a people-led, people-focused organization. The thing that I wrote here, and I don't remember who said it, but they said Walmart is a machine, but the Walmart merchants are not robots.
Yeah.
And I thought that was very impactful. I would just tell you, as you go up the ladder with Walmart, just listen to them. They're demanding, but they will make you a better supplier.
That's all true. I would add to Wayne's point, don't be afraid, but be ready. And here's why. Because if you go into Walmart before you totally have your supply chain organized, if you go into too many stores too soon and you fail, lots of other retailers, whether they'll admit it or not, they look at what Walmart does. And if you get discontinued at Walmart, a lot of people will be like, why would I take this in? They dropped it. And you could have been dropped for a reason other than your product's not meeting a need, doesn't taste good, doesn't work. It could have been something like you just were really bad shipping, because you could have smoked it at 500 stores, but you went to 1,200 and you couldn't keep up. So just make sure you're ready. The only other thing on Walmart that I thought was interesting, they ran a video showing their new store format, as Tracy already mentioned, and it looked really, really sharp. And they said they're already working on the next one, and this one isn't even rolled out. So I was like, dang, that's awesome. So folks, we're heading toward the end here, but I want to leave you with a couple of overall points to the emerging brands out there, or challenger brands. So a couple of things. Make sure you really know your category and bring some data. Know your category. Make sure you really understand all of your costs, not just your costs to make your product. What's your distributor going to charge? What's a broker going to charge? What are the retailer fees? How does this all work out? Because once you settle on a retail price and you're at brick and mortar retail, if you find out you're wrong, that's really hard to fix. It's really hard to fix. Are your product claims and labeling, are they accurate? Is your packaging retail ready? As Tracy and Wayne already said, UPC codes, case packs, inner packs, lots of stuff that's not sexy, but it's vital. Sending something in a case of 12 with no inners might be more efficient for you, and retailers will be like, well, what are you doing? We need inners of 3 or 4. So, you drop the ball on something that you could have figured out if you asked some questions. Do you understand the retailer you are approaching? Are their shoppers a good demographic match to your target shoppers for your brand? Do you understand how the paper will be graded at the retailers you're working with? What are your velocity hurdles? What's your spend expectations? What's the scorecard you have to be achieving at the end of each month? To Tracy's point up front about if you're not good at selling as an emerging brand, find someone who is, or a sales agent or broker that knows how to do this for you. Start small, work in your home market if possible, limit your store count. I think Obi said so you could really oversee getting started. If you live in Brooklyn and your first stores are in Phoenix, going to be hard to watch that all the time to see how it goes. Nail your initial store count and then expand. And last point I have written down here is have a solid demand plan to move product off the shelf. As Tracy and I say all the time, sell in is great, but sell through is going to make or break you if you're successful. So I don't know, Tracy, if you have anything to add to that list. Otherwise, I'd push it over to Wayne for some closing comments on Founders Innovation Day. How can people learn more about ECRM and RangeMe?
Yep.
If you have a database of where these emerging brands, we also heard about take advantage of things like pitch slams,
Yep. Yep.
grants,
Yep.
local business development areas. We did an episode with a woman named Kat Weaver, who has a business called Power to Pitch, and she's an ace at helping brands find and write grants to get off the ground. Sorry, Wayne. Closing
Yeah, no,
comments
Bruce.
from you.
No, yeah, Bruce. What I was going to mention, and you mentioned it, was like every retailer has some sort of accelerator program, right? Or they have some sort of outreach for new brands to submit in. A lot of that is powered shamelessly. Plug it by RangeMe. You heard many of the retailers talk about RangeMe. For those brands that may be listening and don't know RangeMe, definitely check it out. We publish over 600 category specific opportunities on that platform. As an emerging brand, you would not even know that those opportunities are out there. And every single one of them is focused on that.
Hey
So
Wayne,
definitely,
what's
yeah,
the give people the website or whatever for RangeMe to learn more?
yeah, www.rangeme.com.
See, folks, it wasn't that hard. Or you can call Joe Tarnowski at home. He'll answer the
Right.
phone and help
And
you.
the other thing, Bruce, I want to mention is for those emerging brands that want access. For over 30 years, ECRM has been connecting brands with relevant category managers in a very highly efficient way. So that's another area for brands. I do also want to make a mention here that NIQ, Nielsen IQ, the data syndicator provider, does have a platform called Byzer, Byzer, I believe, and they will provide data points for you at no cost, category information insights. You may want to check that out. And again, the work you guys are doing, obviously, this is a journey. It's not a destination. There's a lot of things that founders need to consider. And the work that you guys do at Road to Retail is certainly providing insights, education, connectivity to marketplace to help these brands navigate and succeed. So clearly, guys, I do appreciate what you're doing and the commitment you guys have to the marketplace and our friendship, most importantly. And it's great.
Awesome.
Well, before Tracy kicks the big finish, I just want to thank Wayne and the folks who sponsored this event. I am 99% sure, if not higher, that there will be a third annual. And the next time when ECRM promotes it, people should get their tickets earlier. It was a
Yes.
full house.
Yeah.
And
I think we're going to need a bigger boat.
think we're going to need a bigger boat.
Absolutely.
It was an outstanding day. I hope that this recap has been good for you, but I would encourage emerging brands to go check out that website, Wayne talked about with RangeMe. I've used it personally with other brands, and it can be very, very helpful. So, Trace, any closing comments, or else bring us home with the big finish?
Absolutely. So one thing, Wayne, how can people get in contact with you if they have a question about wanting to attend next year or anything about ECRM conferences coming up or RangeMe?
Tracy, I thank you for that. I tend to spend some time on LinkedIn, so look me up on LinkedIn and reach out to me, message me. That would be the best way to do it.
Awesome. Well, great. Well, audience, thanks for joining us today. Wayne, you were awesome. And thanks for the invite to the event yesterday. We really enjoyed it. We always love coming to New York during the holidays. So again, audience, thanks for joining us. Continue to follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. The link to those are in all of our episodes. Look for this episode. We're going to post tomorrow on Friday, so it's fresh. And then we also post every Tuesday. So continue to look for that. And we thank you again for joining us. Also check out our website, www.road2retail.com. And thanks again. We really enjoyed this.
Good luck out there, folks.
Guys, happy holidays.
Yes.